Let's speak tonight to another member of the Ad Hoc Committee that's looking into allegations of corruption as well as infiltration of the criminal justice system. From the ANC, Khusela Diko joining us by phone on SABC News this evening. Ms. Diko, good to have you on the SABC. So the deadline for this committee, this Ad Hoc Committee, to complete its work is the 31st of March. Do you think you'll be able to meet the deadline?
Good evening, Tendagile. Let me greet you and Bongi as well as your viewers. My sincere apologies. I couldn't join you, or at least see you face to face. The Ad Hoc Committee has received a number of extensions. I think this is possibly the third, if not the fourth extension. You'll remember that when it was established, the National Assembly had given us a period of three months to conclude the investigation and report to it. However, because of scheduling issues and a number of delays at the beginning, we've had to ask for a number of extensions. We hope we will complete by the 31st of March. I think, South Africans deserve that we conclude this process. But even as we conclude it, we do it in a manner that is not shoddy, that really shows due diligence on our part, and that we have applied our minds. The reason I'm saying we hope, and I'm not responding to your question directly of whether we're confident or not, is because a lot of the hard work is really starting now. We're expecting that the evidence leaders, together with Parliamentary Legal Services, will start drafting the report. Thereafter, the MPs will make their inputs, will deliberate on it. There's still a number of grey areas as well, I think, as it relates to, firstly, the mandate of Parliament, the scope of the terms of reference, and the extent to which we can make findings. I mean, we are not an investigative body, right? So we are not able to really send out forensic investigators to uncover things, but our responsibility lies in terms of the institutional failures, the systematic issues that we need to address, whether it's through legislation or recommendations or regulations. So those are some of the issues that we need to clean up in the weeks leading up to the 31st of March.
So how much pressure then does it put your committee under that ultimately there has been this request for an extension for the President to respond in writing, but that's only going to happen by the 16th of this month, which leaves you with about, roughly 14 days to consider not just that response, but everything else that would have to be done, barring, of course, the possibility of an extension by the 31st of March?
You know, Tembagile, I heard you playing the responses of the MPs. The African National Congress had also opined on that request for an extension by the President, and we said that we see no problem with it. The 16th of March is next week, Monday. I think we are all aware that the President is traveling. I think he's in Brazil, not sure when he's returning. But on the 16th of March, we will still have a number of outstanding witnesses in the main, General Masemula and General Mkhwanazi. Now, this is not to say that in the process of them, drafting the report, we will not be considering the President's responses as well. We take note of the fact that there may be a request for follow-up questions, which will have to be processed in the ordinary course of business, like we will be processing the report itself. So we don't think that that is necessarily a problem. It's a few days. I think given the voluminous number of, the voluminous request that we had made to the President, if I'm not mistaken, it had in excess of 100 questions. So we think his request is reasonable, and we agreed, and we are glad that the committee, supported that view, even though it comes with a rider. If he's able to submit sooner, we would truly appreciate that.
Another MP, though, on the same committee, Darylene James, saying that what this does, this request for the President to respond only by the 16th of March, is that it creates an untenable, slightly, I'm putting words in her mouth now, slightly untenable situation where ultimately, if there is a request for clarity, let's say, from any of you on the committee that you would want the President to provide, that might not be possible to do unless there is an extension. So that then, am I right in saying, leads to a situation where a further extension, or at least a request for an extension of the lifespan of this ad hoc committee, appears unavoidable?
Well, it's speculative at this point, Thembekile, because we don't know what the president will respond and say. So to assume right from the get-go that there will be follow-ups, it's something that is a bit difficult for us to comment on. But Thembekile, I want to put this issue of a request for extension by the president in context. We had initially, as a committee, planned to ask the questions to him early in February. There were delays on the side of the committee, and the president wrote to us and requested that at least can we submit the questions after he has completed the State of the Nation address, which you remember was in February. We took some time. The questions were ultimately sent, if I'm not mistaken, a week, definitely not more than 2 weeks ago. So given the amount of time and the amount of questions that have been put before him, if it so happens that we need to follow up, I don't think that there is anything that is precluding us to put those follow-up questions before him, and trust that he will also understand the urgency of the situation and respond likewise. Another
thing that came out today is that ultimately from Minister and the President, Sikhumbudzo Ntshavheni, is that you're not going to hear, as the Ad Hoc Committee, from the suspended Inspector General for Intelligence, Imtiaz Faisal. Is that a missed opportunity for him to respond to some of what has been alleged in the months that this committee has been sitting?
It would be really unfortunate if the Ad Hoc Committee was not to hear from the IGI, Mr. Imtiaz. What we have said as the ANC is that we must try by all means possible to get him to appear before the committee. However, we need to do that within the framework of existing legislation. Now, while the Constitution says that Parliament or its committees may summon anybody, we have raised the fact that, like other provisions in the Constitution, it may be limited by a law of general application, and the enabling legislation of the Intelligence Service unfortunately does that, because the Intelligence Services Act says that he must consult with the President and a responsible minister before he is able to speak to classified information.
But do you want him forced to appear, is what I'm trying to get to?
We do indeed. Right at the beginning, when we first started identifying witnesses, the Inspector General of Intelligence was one of the names that the committee unanimously agreed on. But even as I say that, I do say that we understand that there may be legal limitations. The committee has agreed to write to the President, to the Minister. We will inquire on the reasons, because I don't think there's anybody in the committee, any party, that disagrees with the fact that you can't use, classification to try and sweep things under the carpet, especially where they are criminal offences. But having said that, the IGI himself, if he's aware of any wrongdoing, criminal conduct, he has a responsibility in terms of law, once again, the PRECA in particular, to report such corruption. So, classification does not assist to hide a crime, and we are all in agreement on that. So we'll wait for the responses. The legal ground, as we see it as the African National Congress, is a bit shaky to want to summons the IGI, especially when there's a law that determines process. And there's a parliamentary committee, which is the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, which is the committee that has jurisdiction over intelligence matters and is also probing the same allegations by General Mkhwanazi that the IGI would have reported this matter to. So we're hoping that between our chair and the chair of the JCI, we can also find, resolution to this issue.
We're out of time, you and I, but so as briefly as you can, please. Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the KZN Police Commissioner, will be back before the committee, I understand, at the end of this week. Important because he was the one who made the allegations that kicked off this process and the Nhlanhla Commission of Inquiry. What do you think you would want to hear him address when he does return this time round?
So both General Mkhwanazi and General Masemula have been rescheduled. We've called them to be the last witnesses. So because of the scheduling challenges this morning, they've been moved to next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. There's been a lot of evidence supporting and dismissing what General Mkhwanazi said. And we're hoping that since he was the protagonist in this matter, he's able to clarify where some witnesses would have raised issues that are not necessarily aligned with his testimony, similarly with General Matamula. So we're hoping that at least having heard both sides and giving the general an opportunity to respond will be at least some way closer to finding out what the real truth around these matters are.
Khusela Diko, member of the ANC, also sits on that ad hoc committee that's looking into allegations of corruption in the police service, criminal infiltration, as well as political interference.